France reports another 471 COVID-19 deaths in hospitals in the last 24 hours. The global death toll passing 50,000 according to Johns Hopkins University. Italy reporting another 760 deaths, this after the government extended the lockdown until mid-April. We'll have more from Rome in a moment. And jaw-dropping jobless figures in the US, almost 10 million people filing for benefits in just 2 weeks. Also, federal stockpiles of medical supplies are running low. Hello and thanks for joining us here on France 24. I'm Claire Pride. We start here in France, where a lockdown came into effect more than 2 weeks ago. The death toll from coronavirus in the country's hospitals has gone up by 471, slightly fewer than in previous days. More than 4,500 deaths total. France, the fourth worst affected country when it comes to fatalities after Italy, Spain and the US. More than 2,000 new cases have been reported.
The delay before serious symptoms emerge can be around 15 days, up to 17 or 18 days, which is roughly the same amount of time since the quarantine began. We can probably start evaluating the impact of the quarantine by the end of the week or on the weekend, where the effect on hospital admissions and, in particular, on intensive care will begin to appear.
Now, France's top health official also giving today for the first time an estimate of the number of deaths in retirement and care homes, this since the start of the outbreak, and he put it at least 884. Again, that's a partial toll, since not all of the EHPAD, as retirement homes are known here in France, have shared their figures. Now, compared to other countries like Germany or South Korea, for instance, testing for COVID-19 here in France isn't very common. The government, though, announced recently a ramping up of testing. Not soon enough for some who've been going to a private clinic here in Paris. Olivia Salazar-Winspear reports.
Forming an orderly queue, these people have all made an appointment to get tested for the coronavirus without a prescription.
Le test, c'est surtout à un niveau personnel, c'est pour être rassuré.
Comme c'est un truc, même si on n'a pas les symptômes, on peut l'avoir.
This clinic has a new protocol. Outside, staff manage the queue, then the receptionists take people's temperature, but there's still no guarantee they'll be tested. The doctors on duty decide on a case-by-case basis.
Qu'est-ce que j'ai? Fatigue, diarrhée.
Vous faites quoi comme travail?
Producteur de cinéma, mais je travaille pas.
Vous êtes chez vous?
Oui.
Parce qu'en soi, vous n'êtes pas une super indication pour être prélevé.
This patient can get a consultation and some advice.
Rien mettre dans le nez.
Non, non, non.
Faut pas prendre d'anti-inflammatoire.
Non, je sais.
Faut faire très attention.
But not a test.
Non, je sais. Je sors de là en me disant, oui, je l'ai probablement, je ne peux pas savoir, avoir la certitude que je l'ai. Non, c'est pas rassurant.
Non, non.
This woman is an auxiliary nurse and she has a fever.
J'ai des courbatures. Et comme je travaille à l'hôpital, je me suis dit non. Je sens même pas les odeurs des patients.
Given her symptoms and her line of work, she qualifies for a test.
Elle a bien fait de venir nous voir plutôt que continuer à travailler à l'hôpital dans ces conditions avec un risque de recontaminer.
More than 440 people have come to this clinic for a test. Of those who got one, 50% tested positive for COVID-19.
Moving on now to Italy's latest COVID-19 figures. The world's worst affected country reporting another 760 deaths. That's almost 14,000 total. As for new cases, Italy's recorded more than 2,400 of them. The lockdown has been extended until April 13th. Seema Gupta, our correspondent in Rome, gave us the latest.
760 deaths with COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. That's a slight increase from the day before, a heartbreaking figure, but it still is more or less stable when you look at the trend of the last couple of days. The rate of infection has dropped slightly as compared to the figures from the day before, basically confirming that flattening of the curve that they've been talking about. And the authorities are saying that the trend is positively stabilizing. There's some concern that the figures that we're seeing right now are really not the real figures because of testing that is fairly uneven. But even on those grounds, we're seeing the number of tests carried out also increasing by the health authorities here in Italy. It's interesting to look at the scale of this emergency, though, Claire. At the moment, just to give you an idea, in the city of Milan, the crematorium there has closed and is not taking any more bodies for the month of April because they've got to clear the backlog from the month of March.
Seema, what did the latest figures in Italy tell us about the country's containment measures?
Well, essentially what the authorities are telling us is that the containment measures, this proves that it's working and that the deaths that you are seeing right now are a result of infections that took place about 20 days ago. The symptoms of the virus take about 2 weeks, we understand, to appear. And basically it takes time. The virus takes time and you have to give it the amount of time in terms of the lockdown to see its impact. And so that's what the Prime Minister is saying right now and has been saying so far, that the sacrifices that people have been taking in staying indoors and doing everything they can to prevent the spread of COVID-19 will be in vain if they're too quick in opening things up.
Now, Spain has reported record jobless figures, some 900,000 people losing their jobs since Spain went into lockdown almost 3 weeks ago. Record daily deaths too, Spain reporting 950 new COVID-19 deaths this Thursday, more than 10,000 in total. That's the world's second highest death toll after Italy. And when Spaniards lose a loved one, chances are they can't attend the burial. Selena Sykes reports.
Attending a burial via video call. The stark reality in Spain, where strict measures are in place to fight against the spread of the coronavirus. Funeral ceremonies have been banned and no more than 3 people can attend burials, denying many the opportunity to say goodbye to their loved ones. Raquel decided to live stream her grandparents' funeral for other grieving relatives, an experience that would have been unimaginable a few months ago.
Preservar la salud de las familias, evitando nuevos focos de contagio, proteger a los profesionales de las empresas funerarias. Este nuevo virus ha cambiado la forma de relacionarnos, ha cambiado la forma del día a día y por tanto también nos ha cambiado un poco la forma de morir, ¿no? Entonces las familias están entendiendo que las situaciones son extraordinarias.
Funeral services have become overwhelmed. There are now more than 150 burials a day in Madrid, 3 times the average amount. In March, an ice rink in the capital was transformed into a makeshift morgue. Strict confinement measures in Spain are in place until at least the 11th of April and could be extended.
In Russia, President Vladimir Putin has announced that most of the population will be expected to stay off work until the end of the month. It was Putin's second address to the nation in 10 days. The president saying he was extending the so-called non-working policy he ordered earlier for this week to remain in force until April 30th. Russia has more than 3,500 confirmed cases, 30 reported deaths, with Moscow the worst affected. To the US now, where COVID-19 cases continue to rise rapidly, and so do the jobless figures. Another 6.7 million Americans applying for benefits last week. That's a new record after some 3.3 million filed for unemployment the week before. Until recently, US unemployment was at a nearly 50-year low of 3.5%. We spoke to Kate Moody, our business editor.
The speed at which millions of people have found themselves out of work is really unprecedented. 6,648,000 people applied for unemployment assistance in the last week of the month of March. As you said, that means in the space of 2 weeks, some 10 million Americans have found themselves out of work very suddenly. Now, these are all new claims, not people who were already unemployed for most of the year so far. Just for context, the weekly average of new claims had been about 300,000. All sectors are being affected here, but in particular the service industry, so retailers and restaurants, which are cutting back staff. We know also that manufacturing, construction, and healthcare companies have been affected as well. More job cuts are coming. We haven't hit the bottom yet, but so are claims that have been filed but haven't been processed yet. States say that they've been absolutely overwhelmed with requests, and they haven't been able to actually do all the paperwork yet, so the data aren't quite up to speed. speed yet. The stimulus rescue package, which the U.S. Congress passed last week, also extends unemployment benefits for more people who weren't previously eligible, specifically the self-employed and people who work in the so-called gig economy. A lot of those people find themselves without work now, so they'll be adding to this data. The numbers expected to go higher as the weeks continue.
In other news from the US, the Democratic National Convention planned for July has been postponed until mid-August because of COVID-19. That's when Democrats decide who gets to go up against Donald Trump in November's presidential election. Joe Biden called for the convention to be postponed on Wednesday. Kitavan Gorjestani has more from Washington.
The president talked about being in a position where we're going to have.
With most models not showing the outbreak fully subsiding here in the U.S. before July, the Democratic National Committee has decided to move its all-important national convention from mid-July to mid-August, meaning it will now take place right before the Republican National Convention. But it really is the whole 2020 campaign that has been upended by the spread of the coronavirus, with all political rallies and in-person campaigning canceled, and many states deciding to either move to mail-in voting or simply postponing their primaries altogether. Just this month, 11 states were set to hold primaries. 10 of them have canceled or postponed in-person voting, except Wisconsin, which, despite being under a stay-at-home order, is still refusing to budge. The Republican-controlled House is refusing the delay, saying that it could confuse voters as to the actual date of the voting, while the Democratic governor is simply pushing for more mail-in ballots. The result of all of that is a complete electoral chaos, with poll workers dropping out, supplies running out, and a record-breaking demand for mail-in ballots. But opponents of holding that primary vote are hoping for a last-minute turnaround, with several lawsuits requesting the delay of that primary vote still being debated in the courts.
Kitavan Gorjestani there. Now, how does attending a film festival sound? Pretty good, I'd say, but impossible with lockdowns all over the world, right? Wrong. France 24's film critic Lisa Nesselson explains.
Before over half the planet was ordered to stay at home, France hosted a film festival somewhere almost every week of the year. Now, you may think that film festivals are glamorous events, and they can be, but really the main attraction is the movies. So, excellent news, no matter where you are located. Through April 27th, you can attend a film festival in France. It's called myfrenchfilmfestival.com, the home edition. And it's a gift absolutely free of charge from UniFrance, the 70-year-old organization that promotes French films beyond French borders. It's comprised of over 50 French short films, and they're all free and subtitled in an array of languages that I think should accommodate just about everybody. Ironically, in recent years, some people have sort of been in training for the current situation by binge watching TV series at home. Personally, I've never binged anything at home except books or chocolate ice cream. But now everybody can pretend to be a professional film critic, watching movies all day and well into the night. I think François Truffaut probably put it best when he said everybody has two professions, their own and film critic. So, fellow film critics, here's a great place to start. Kiki of Montparnasse by Amélie Hérault. It won the César for Best Animated Short, and it's the life of Kiki, who was a model for many of the artists in the 1920s in Montparnasse. She had a very stormy romance with Man Ray, and you're probably familiar with that photograph he did of her back turned into a cello. It's 14 delightful minutes, and here's a sample to whet your appetite.
Je vais souvent à la rotonde, j'aime bien. Il y a de belles peintures au mur et puis je suis à la bonne avec les filles des cuisines. Mais là-bas, la grande salle, c'est que pour les grandes dames. Alors du coup, moi, je dois rester au bar.
Mais enfin, Kiki, pourquoi que t'essayes pas de t'acheter un chapeau? Comme ça, tu pourrais y aller dans la grande salle.
Eh ben, lui, il doit pas savoir combien ça coûte un chapeau.
And that's it for this edition. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and take care of yourselves.